How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Jedi Survivor video. Now, over the past couple days, we got a ton of brand new information in regards to Jedi Survivor. EA flew a lot of Star Wars content creators out and they all got to play the game early, and since then they have all released their impressions and their gameplay on the game. And in today's video, I'm going to give you guys the breakdown of all the new information that we got. Basically, if there was a content creator or a YouTuber that made a video or posted an article about the game, I went over it. I watched probably 15 plus videos about the game, I took a lot of notes, and I took all the major bits of information that everybody gave. But one thing I found very interesting was that a lot of the content creators were very tight-lipped, but what I found interesting was that every content creator sort of gave a little bit more information than the previous one, and they all had their own unique experiences when they got to play the game for about 4 hours. But the very first thing I want to go over in today's video is the specs got updated on the Jedi Survivor website. Over on EA Star Wars, where they have the minimum and recommended specs for PC players, and the storage size is now 155 gigabytes. Now this is a recent change. My guess is after the capture event and after a couple patches and stuff behind the scenes, they realized that this game is going to take up more space than they originally thought, and 155 gigabytes is no small game. That is over 3 times the size of the first game, Jedi Fallen Order. So if you plan on getting Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I would highly recommend you start freeing up some space. And fingers crossed that they have a pre-download, because 155 gigabytes is going to take quite some time for those of you that have some slower internet. But if I had to take a guess, they probably aren't going to let people preload the game until the very last minute due to this being a story-based game, and they don't want people to data mine it and leak all the story spoilers on the internet. So up next, I actually want to talk about all the bad things that all these content creators had to say about the game. Now, there's not too many bad things that people had to say, but some of the cons were frame rate issues. I watched multiple videos where the major complaint that people had were frame rate issues. They said there was multiple places throughout their playthrough where the frame rates would drop really badly, and apparently they were playing on some pretty big rig PCs, but honestly, this is pretty expected, and this is probably why the game even got delayed. I mean, they still have the whole rest of this month to iron out some bugs and fix some frame rate problems. If the frame rate problems are one of the biggest concerns, I mean, that's honestly a good thing, because they can fix that probably fairly easily. Nobody really had any complaints about the gameplay or the story or any of that stuff. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. But another complaint I saw from Battlefront updates and Azatrue is they both said that it wasn't easy to find where to go. They said it was a bit confusing to figure out where the main objective was, and the open world was just so big that they accidentally stumbled across some side objectives, and they weren't too sure what the main objective was versus the side objectives. I don't know if this is due to a lack of markers or due to a lack of beacons being on your minimap or your compass, but easily getting lost is one of the few complaints that I saw. And then another complaint that I saw people have is that it's very easy to accidentally activate your Force abilities. Now in Jedi Survivor, the combat works a lot differently than Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Survivor is more combo based, and a lot of the combos will drain your Force meter. So if you're just trying to pull off some basic attacks and save up your Force meter for like a big move, you'll find yourself very easily accidentally activating a combo, and then that will drain your Force meter when you're not necessarily meaning to. Now obviously this might change based off of the more skill points you get, and maybe they might tweak this before the game comes out, but that's something to keep in mind. And then the final con that I want to go over might not even be seen as a con to some people, and it's that Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a next-gen exclusive game, so it will only be on the Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 5, and PC. So if you don't own a next-gen console yet, unfortunately you won't be able to play this game. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, this could be seen as a good thing, because they don't have to focus on the last-gen consoles. The last-gen consoles aren't going to be holding back this game, which opens up this game to a lot more possibilities. It's going to be a lot bigger, there's going to be a lot more open maps, the graphics are going to look better, and we just aren't going to have to deal with all the drama that normally happens with the last-gen consoles. It happened with Cyberpunk, it happened with Hogwarts Legacy. Basically, anytime a game has to focus on those last-gen consoles, it normally just isn't good for the developers, and it kind of holds the game back. So next up, let's talk about a lot of the good things people had to say about the game. So in Jedi Survivor, there are a total of 5 different lightsaber stances, one of which lets you carry a blaster. Now unfortunately, none of the content creators got to use the blaster, so there is no blaster gameplay, but they all got to see it in action, and they all said that it looks really cool. Now unlike Jedi Fallen Order, every single one of these lightsaber stances has their own XP tree, and every single one of them is different and unique. So if you're like me, you're probably going going to want to go and max out literally every single tree and have every upgrade that you can. But if you don't want to play that way and you only want to use a double-sided lightsaber, or if you just want to use a lightsaber and a blaster, you can just stick to one tree and fully put all your perks into one skill tree and just stick with that one stance. You don't have to alternate between all of them. So in Jedi Survivor, you can have 2 stances equipped at the same time, and then if you want to switch your stances, you have to go and meditate. Another pro that a lot of people were talking about is the dismemberment. A lot of people were highlighting just how cool the dismemberment is, and it makes it feel a lot better than Jedi Fallen Order. That was one of my major complaints with Jedi Fallen Order. It was that the lightsaber just felt like a baseball bat, and you would hit opponents and your lightsaber would just bounce right off of them. It didn't really feel like a lightsaber to me, and apparently that feeling is completely gone in Jedi Survivor. They have a lot of dismemberment now. You can cut off arms and legs of stormtroopers. When it comes to battle droids, there's a lot more leeway, and basically every time you slice a battle droid, you're going to cut off a limb. Some of the creatures, such as this Wampa looking creature, you can completely cut off its arm. So just the fact that you can dismember things and it actually feels like a lightsaber instead of a baseball bat is going to make the combat feel a lot smoother and a lot more satisfying. Up next, it looks like customization is making another big return. Unlike Jedi Fallen Order, there will not be any ponchos. That was one of my biggest gripes with Jedi Fallen Order, was just Poncho 1, Poncho 2, Poncho 3, pink, red, blue, black. Like, it was just super boring. Well, in Jedi Survivor, you can change your hair, your clothes, your beard, your jackets, the clothing that's underneath of your jacket. You can customize the music at your outpost, so you can have sort of like a little mini DJ. You can customize BD1. You can change and swap out different parts that have different functions for BD1. So BD1 actually has some more uses this time. You can actually use BD1 as binoculars, so that's pretty cool. And then, of course, you can change and customize your lightsaber hilt and collars just like you could in the last game. And then, since we're on the topic of customization and making your character look cool, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, it is confirmed that there's going to be a photo mode, so if you want to look like a badass and you want to make your character look as cool as possible, you can enter photo mode and take all kinds of cool screenshots. I love photo modes because they're really great for thumbnails and stuff, so it's nice to see that the photo mode is making a return. Alright, so next up, let's talk about the Outpost. The Outpost is on planet Kobo, and at this Outpost, like I said before, you can customize the music here, you can plant a garden here, there are cosmetic vendors here, so this is where you want to go if you want to buy different outfits or different hairstyles. And then apparently throughout your playthrough, you're going to interact a lot of NPCs and side characters, and you will have the option to recruit them and send them back to your outpost, where they will become more vendors and will do more things around the outpost. So you not only have an outpost, but it sort of acts as your hub area, and you can do a ton of different things to upgrade it and make it feel like home. And then another cool thing about the outpost is that it has a stable where you can go out and capture all kinds of different creatures, and then you can bring them back to the outpost and store them in the stable, where you can then use them at any time that you like. And when it comes to the different creatures that you're going to find throughout your playthrough, there are tons of different ways that the creatures will look. Maybe you find a creature that's red, and then later on you find another one that's gray. You can just pick the one that you like the most and then take it back to your stable, and then whichever creature you bring to the stable is the one that you save. So this gives you the option to play around with the different creature types. If you find an ugly creature, you don't have to keep it. You can easily just swap it out at any time. Alright, so next up, let's talk about the settings in the game. Star Wars Jedi Survivor will have 5 difficulty settings, one more than the previous game, Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Survivor will have a story setting, a Jedi Padawan setting, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master, and Jedi Grandmaster. Now, based off of what all the YouTubers were saying, this game is actually way harder than Jedi Fallen Order. A lot of people were playing on Jedi Knight difficulty, and they were saying that they were struggling and having a lot of trouble killing some of the bigger creatures. A couple people said they tried Jedi Master difficulty, and they just couldn't get past certain areas, and some of the developers tapped them on the shoulder and told them to probably lower the difficulty so they could get as much playtime in as possible. And then I didn't see anybody talking about Jedi Grandmaster difficulties. So I would imagine Jedi Grandmaster is probably for those hardcore experienced players. Maybe if there's a new game plus, that'd be when you want to try Jedi Grandmaster, that way you have all your skills and abilities unlocked. But it definitely seems like this game is going to have a wide variety of difficulty settings for those who just want to put it on super easy mode and just blow through the story, or for those of you that want a challenge. damage. Then they also have a lot of different accessibility options. In the settings, you can change different things such as turning fall damage off. So if you don't want to take any fall damage, you don't have to. There's a slow motion mode in the settings. So if you want to play the game on slow motion, maybe someone has real poor eyesight or whatever disability, slow motion mode would definitely help with that, especially if combat gets really crazy and it's just too much for somebody to handle. They could slow things down. There's an option to skip voice lines with the push of a button. So if there's a cutscene or some sort of dialogue, you can skip that. And then there's an arachnophobia mode, which confirms that there's going to be spiders in the game. If for some reason you don't want to fight spiders, you can turn this mode on in the settings and it will completely get rid of all the spiders. And then another interesting thing is that if you're exploring and you get stuck on a puzzle and you just can't figure out what to do, the game will ask you if you want a hint, and then you can tell the game just yes or no. So you don't have to worry too much about getting completely lost or not figuring out a puzzle, because it will ask you if you need help. And then the final thing I want to touch up on is the Rancor. A lot of people were bringing up the Rancor in their playthroughs. Now, if you play Jedi Fallen Order, you know that there are a lot of giant monsters and giant beasts that you have to fight throughout the environments. And this is one of those cases. Obviously, a Rancor is one of the big bosses that you would fight. That's just super cool to me that this game is going to have more hidden boss fights just like Jedi Fallen Order. Hopefully, you get some good awards and some good customization options for defeating these bosses. But just the fact that this game has a Rancor that you can fight as a boss anyway is just super cool to me. I absolutely love the Rancor. It's one of my favorite Star Wars creatures, and I'm glad to see that it's no pushover, because very few of the content creators were actually able to kill it. But that basically does it for everything Star Wars Jedi Survivor that we know so far. As we get closer to the game's release later this month, we're going to be finding out more and more information. So if you guys don't want to miss out on anything Star Wars Jedi Survivor, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. That way you guys don't miss out on anything related to the game. Now, I'm going to be replaying Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on stream just to sort of build hype before we get up to the launch. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to check it out, then follow me on Twitch at Swanee Plays Games Live. Now, that is going to do it for me, everyone, and I will talk to you all in the next video.